everyone, and welcome to the Media Informant Now. I am your host, Luke Benanav, and although I would love to talk about the Super Mario Galaxy movie or Project Hail Mary, the two most recent space-themed movies, we're going to be diving in with our main story tonight, which is all about monopolies, where big companies keep dragging on the game to see how far they can get before a government flips the board and suggests playing Risk instead. Specifically, we're going to be taking a look at the upcoming merger between a figurehead in film and a company that really wants to grow up, Warner Brothers and Netflix.
Thank you. More breaking news here this afternoon. Warner Brothers Discovery has signed a merger agreement with Paramount Skydance. This deal comes just a day after Netflix dropped out of the bidding war for Warner Brothers Studio.
Damn it! Instead of being bought by a company that has more money than Disney, with a recent track record for canceling the good shows and continuing those that nobody watches, Warner Brothers is being bought by the company that almost nobody watches, period. How could they have made this decision?
Paramount and Warner Brothers Discovery reportedly signed an agreement today on a $110 billion deal.
Oh, I see. That is an incomprehensible amount of money. So, we have our next major combination. Warner Brothers Discovery, with HBO, CNN, and everything in between, is in an uncontested deal with David Ellison's Paramount Skydance, bringing Paramount up from being forgotten at the box office into becoming one of the biggest media conglomerates to date. But how is this happening? Tonight, let's take a look at big media combinations. When have they happened? Why is the Paramount-Warner Brothers deal so important? Why antitrust laws should stop the merger from happening in the first place? And what is being done about it? Starting with the big picture, what is a monopoly and what is a merger? Well, the FTC has kindly provided definitions for both, along with some wiggle room that companies can use to technically avoid breaking the law. Here is the key information. A monopoly is when a particular business has enough power in an industry to control prices and distribution of products, excluding other businesses from having the chance to have a similar amount of power. The FTC looks at both market power and exclusionary conduct to define a business as a monopoly. To determine market power, courts look at the firm's market share, but typically do not find monopoly power if the firm has less than 50% of the sales. So for most companies, market power is not what they need to worry about. As long as some other source of a product remains, then the company is not a monopoly. Exclusionary conduct is when companies use exclusionary or predatory acts such as exclusive supply or purchase agreements, tying, predatory pricing, or refusal to deal. This is what got Microsoft in trouble and how Apple has nearly gotten in trouble with their exclusionary software. Monopoly laws are clearly quite loose. It's like walking a dog on an extendable leash. The dog is in control, and you know if it pulls too hard you can reel it in, but until then the dog has completely free rein. Then there are merger guidelines. Merger guidelines exist to prevent big companies from reducing competition, with a list of 11 guidelines that the FTC is meant to use to determine whether two companies combining is legal. My personal favorite is the framing of number 2, which says that mergers can violate the law when they eliminate substantial competition. Not that they do violate the law, but that they can. And up to how much substantial means is up to the FTC and the DOJ. Now, media companies have split and merged like cells during mitosis for decades, such as this merger between Time Inc. and Warner Communications in the late 80s, or the much more recent acquisitions of Lucasfilm and 20th Century Fox by Disney in 2012 and 2017, and Amazon's acquisition of MGM in 2022 are a couple of the examples of the continual shifting of the biggest fish in the media industry. All of these mergers were determined to be legal, and when those companies were mixing, there was some public outcry. What was family-friendly Disney going to do with a heavily R-rated character like Deadpool? Or perhaps more importantly, how is Disney's purchase going to change the media landscape with only 5 major competitors? Now, almost a decade after that deal was announced, Disney has under a third of the market share, has continued to produce movies of all varieties, and is still competing with other studios. I can't believe I'm defending them for the first time. But there seems to be something different about Netflix and Paramount and Warner Brothers merger. When Netflix announced their offer to buy Warner Brothers, Hollywood unions were worried that Netflix's purchase of Warner Brothers and HBO would exacerbate a Hollywood shift into streaming, shortening films' exclusivity periods in theaters, which has drastically reduced the number of jobs for theater workers, actors, writers, directors, and crew members. This initial fear of power that Netflix could suddenly have over the media landscape catapulted the merger onto headlines everywhere. According to Netflix, the plan was not to eliminate theatrical releases of Warner Brothers projects, but the Netflix and Warner Brothers libraries would be combined. All of this would be to benefit the consumers, as they have to argue. Although some consumers in particular may benefit a little bit more. See if you can spot who.
Why is Netflix the preferred partner for this deal?
Our shareholders get more than a 200% return to shareholders. So our shareholders are thrilled, and it's tremendous value for our shareholders.
Right. The shareholders are who Netflix was thinking about. Well, them and Netflix members, which, since they've started locking down on password sharing, has gone from 1 family member to 2 family members per household sharing the password with everyone else on Earth. They mention Netflix members in their section on More Choice. The initial press release tries to ease tensions about opportunities for workers as well, saying the company will create a greater value for talent, offering more opportunities to work with beloved intellectual property, tell new stories, and connect with a wider audience than ever before. In other words, Netflix is not saying that they'll be adding jobs, just that the chance to work for Netflix will be higher, and that we can expect more soulless spin-offs and remakes of classic Warner Brothers property, like Casablanca 2, Cold War Calls, South by Southeast, and a revival of Harry Potter, now in series form. Oh wait, that one's actually happening. The point is, Netflix was not really increasing total jobs, they just needed to say that they were so the initial investigation wouldn't stop before it even started. Now, it's pretty clear that Netflix is just covering their bases in their initial press release, and had they gone ahead with the deal, the pro-consumer and pro-creative arguments that both Warner Brothers and Netflix would have had to make likely would have encapsulated a little bit more than simply, it's more convenient to have all the movies up on a platform that everyone uses, and now everyone can work for one place. Of course, that didn't end up mattering once Paramount opened up duffel bags of IOUs worth $111 billion. As Netflix put it in their retraction statement, the deal was no longer financially attractive. This transaction was always a nice to have at the right price, not a must have at any price, which makes sense. As of this taping, Warner Brothers is reportedly worth $68.9 billion, and Netflix was already willing to pay almost $83 billion. $111 billion is over 2/3 greater than Warner Brothers' initial value. For Netflix, which has had massive success capitalizing on original shows like Stranger Things and Squid Game and movies like K-pop Demon Hunters, they don't need to collect studios like Pokemon cards. So Paramount won the deal. But besides the money, there was a key difference between Paramount's deal and Warner Brothers' and Netflix deal, and that is what each company was actually going to buy. While Warner Brothers is known for classic movies, shows, and franchises, they also have a whole network television branch, which is home to the Discovery Channel, Cartoon Network, and CNN, among other channels. Now, when Netflix was planning on scooping up Warner Brothers, a part of their deal was that they would not be buying the network branch, just the movie and television production branch and HBO, which, by the way, is ridiculous. What is Netflix going to do with another streaming service? No one would just merge a streaming service into their own platform but say that it's still a separate one so that they can make double the profit, right? Paramount, however, is picking up the network branch along with everything that Netflix was trying to buy. And this feels like a good moment to bring up a little more information about Paramount as a company. Paramount owns Paramount Studios, of course, but also Paramount Plus, MTV, Showtime, Comedy Central, Nickelodeon, and CBS News, along with a few other companies. By merging Paramount and Warner Brothers, Paramount would own a whole other movie production studio, another subscription service, another made-for-TV cartoon studio, and perhaps most notably, a second news outlet. Paramount is effectively removing a competitor from the market in many different fields, which feels like something that would be hard to get around in a merger. Let's see how Paramount CEO David Ellison talks about the competitive space.
I believe this deal is basically, it's pro-competitive, it's pro-consumer. By uniting the iconic, basically, libraries of Paramount and the iconic libraries of Warner Brothers, we now have a library of 15,000 films, everything from Harry Potter to the DC Universe, Mission Impossible, Top Gun, and The Godfather under one roof. It immediately gets us to scale in streaming. When you put Paramount Plus and HBO Max together, you get to over 200 million, basically, gross subscribers.
So, according to him, merging the studios doesn't reduce competition. It increases it, because their powers are combined. But that doesn't entirely make sense, because there is so much overlap already between what Paramount and Warner Brothers have, or as NBC put it,
look, if you were to merge those two sides of that screen, what does that look like? It's a Noah's Ark problem, two of everything.
There's a Noah's Ark problem, where because Paramount can keep what it considers the most important and most efficient from both companies, anything else can just be cut. It feels like the opposite of competitive, because while it may make Paramount more prominent in Hollywood, a provider of entertainment and news would be completely missing. The acquisition of CNN is another piece that may have some interesting effects on the media landscape. David Ellison and his father, Larry Ellison, are close with Donald Trump, who has voiced very negative opinions about CNN in the past, and the Ellisons have said that, should they gain control of CNN, there would be changes. Two of the biggest news sources would be under one umbrella, which, while not inherently bad, does mean the loss of a perspective in the news, and leave a lot of room for questioning how the Ellisons' politics may trickle into the news. After gaining control of CBS, there were shifts in information that it presented which became more right-leaning, and there's no reason to assume that the same wouldn't happen with CNN. All of this feels a little strange, though. How could Paramount buying an almost identical company not break the merger guidelines? Merger Guideline 2 from earlier says that the law can be broken if a substantial competition is eliminated between firms. Or look at Guideline 1, which states that they can break the law if they significantly increase concentration in a highly concentrated market, which, by narrowing the film industry to 3 main players plus Sony, MGM, and Apple, which don't really count, feels significant. But it's that can that lets everything through. By using can, the law is up to interpretation. It's like taking this cake and saying that it can break the rules if an irregular slice is taken from it. To me, taking it from the middle is quite an irregular slice. But when the person who's running the birthday party says that slices from the middle are the best slices and the most normal slices, suddenly the people who decide if it's breaking the rules, who were chosen by the host of the party, agree. Now, it's not guaranteed that this deal will go through completely. There is a chance that the FTC does find something that they remarkably find wrong with it, but the chances of that seem really low. So as we watch the media landscape become more controlled by just a few billionaires, there's only one question that we have left. Is there anything that is being done or that can be done to stop the potential absorption of studios and companies? Well, while there's not a lot that citizens can do, states can challenge the merger. The Attorney General of California, Rob Bonta, seen here wondering if he's about to sneeze, is already pulling the wheels in motion to try and challenge the proposed merger and calling for a deeper investigation into its legality. He's encouraging other attorney generals to do the same, and already has Letitia James of New York on his side. Whether this will have a lasting effect is yet to be seen. As well, actors, directors, and producers from Hollywood are banding together with over 1,000 signatures on a letter that details why the unions feel this merger will threaten the number of jobs in Hollywood. But if you want to feel like you are able to have any sort of impact on the issue, head to sites.google.com/brandeis.edu, thismergerisbreakingthelaw.com, to stay completely up to date on the latest information about the merger and what is happening to combat it. At any rate, I just can't wait to see the next rebranding of the streaming service. HBO Mount Max Plus. I guess HBO is due for a name change anyway. That's our show. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.